Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go. Good day, everybody. This, as you already know, hopefully, is the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. Check out the shirt. All right. And I have another list I picked up from somebody. I get all these emails from people that are influencers and idea people, and I love ideas. And so I picked up this list of 8 things that I want to share with you about greatness, about little ideas of how to mentally think about being greater yourself. And some of them are very practical and you can do them. Some of them are things to think about and then over time put into practice. But the person titled it, "Here are some random thoughts." And not necessarily business focused. Some of them are. You can imagine that you can do almost anything with these from any point in your life. Number 1, you become what you think about. I've talked on this podcast a lot about the idea that thinking is your pathway to anything, the greatness, to getting your goals, and the idea of writing down your goals and then looking at them several times a week or writing them down several times a week, that it stimulates the thinking and actually the senses to, is that goal in my life right now? Is the pathway to that goal in my life? And you start noticing things about that if you write them down and if they're in your life a lot. So you are what you think about. Number 2, your inner world created your outer world, which is your thinking world, your emotions, your what is the buzzword these days? Emotional intelligence. Your emotional intelligence has created the life you have to some degree, along with the things like number 1, you are what you think about. So you're becoming these things. Are you thinking bigger and better and growth, or are you literally thinking about, I'm going to feed my passions, I'm going to be comfortable? So anyway, I'll repeat number 2, your inner world created your outer world. And that is 100% true for you. Number 3, you'll never go for a walk and wish you never went for a walk. Isn't that true in life? Is that when we discipline ourselves to do the things that we know that are good for us and we enjoy, when we do more of that, we never regret. Of course, the deathbed, analogy people use is, what's something nobody ever says on their deathbed? Oh, I wish I'd have spent more time at work. I wish I'd have made more money. Well, maybe they made more money to give away, but did it help them in the moment when they're on their deathbed? No. But do they ever say that they wish they'd have spent more time at work rather than time with those they love? No, that's not even the way it ever goes. So take a walk, go for a run, do your workout, especially perhaps on the days when you don't want to, that feels uncomfortable. I might end up talking. I didn't mean to, but I might end up talking about uncomfortable as we go through these things. Number 4, science proves setting realistic goals is a bad idea. Set monster goals. Okay. So there is a place for realistic goals, but always have a stretch in them. No, but this is what I really want to do. this is realistic, but always set it 20, 25% more. Or in the case of something that you're new at, set it 50% more. Get better, do better and do more, especially for those around you, because you won't regret growing. I was talking to a guy at church, and we don't know each other very well. And he was asking me about business and that kind of thing. And he said he only knows just barely what I do and where kind of I come from in life. And he said something about the business, and yeah, we're up to 60 people, and he was asking about that, and he said, "How have you done it?" He owned a business for a short time, about 10 years, a number of years ago, and he said, "How have you done it? Like it's so hard because I've been there." And I said, "Well, there's a lot of nuts and bolts and a lot of ways to answer that question, but here's one thing I know for sure is that if you get very uncomfortable and you stay there for a long period of time, then eventually you have success." Now, that's probably there's a lot of ways to think about that. Don't get uncomfortable in ridiculous and stupid ways, and yet get uncomfortable in ways that do energize you, that do have a reason behind them, a why behind them, which was what business always was for me. It was a reason to feed my family, the way to feed my family, to be honest. That's what it was. But then a number of years ago, I started seeing the light behind, if we do these things in a certain way, a certain methodology, with some help, with some coaching and somebody that can come in and help us understand them, then we actually can grow. And I kind of prayed for that growth. And now, boy, that it's here. It's like, oh man, be careful what you ask for. And yet, get uncomfortable and think big and do big things. That is really important. So I'll read that again. Number 4, science proves that realistic goals is a bad idea. Set monster goals. And I didn't do much of that. And I did hold myself back for 2.5 decades plus. We didn't set goals. I didn't set personal goals. The company didn't set goals. And it did hold us back, because when you set a goal and write it down and think about that goal, and then you see the goal coming, you see it possible, you see the pathway to it, and then you take another step, more steps down that pathway. So highly recommend goals in life. Number 5, be generous with everything except your time. We need to be careful of our time. It's the only commodity that's given to us for free, that we are on an equal plane with the richest and the poorest and everybody else, including babies to old. We're on the same plane as everybody. But we need to be intentional and a little bit stingy. I got a message from somebody who is in another country right now doing some mission work. Their wife and baby are here. And he said, "Can you go? I'm looking at a refrigerator on Craigslist. Can you go check this thing out?" He knows I have a pickup, of course. And if it checks out, can you buy it and bring it to the house and just get it to my house? And I actually considered for a moment, am I intentional about what I'm doing with my time? And then I realized, okay, on my list of things to do for this next couple of days, I actually have some space. And so, can I serve this friend? Yes, I absolutely can. And it's kingdom work, because it frees him up from the worry of worrying about what's going on at home, because he trusts me. He knows I'm going to do my best to check it out and make sure it's working well. And that will energize his mission work that he's doing. He'll have to worry less about what's going on at home, and he can be more in the moment where he's at. And that's an act of service that I asked my wife, "Well, do you think we can do this?" And she said, "Yes, tell him yes." And we'll make it happen. And we'll probably go do it together. So we'll get time together while we're serving someone else. That's an intentional thought. Now, had it been yesterday, or let's say Thursday, the day before yesterday, I would have said, "No, I can't do it today, maybe tomorrow." And then they might have lost the deal. But I would have had to turn that down on that Thursday, or do this deep into the evening because I literally had until 7:30 p.m. all booked up. So we need to be realistic and we need to be able to say no. We need to intentionally protect our time. It says be generous with everything except your time. So give money, give moments, give intention, be generous with what you've been given, no doubt about it, but be very intentional, be thoughtful. Go back to number one, you become what you think about. Now, you might become the greatest servant in the world, but if you're not intentional about how you do it and making sure that you're taking care of your spouse, your family, and the other people around you, then serving someone else has very little value, if any. Serving someone outside of that group that you've been asked by God to serve. So, something to think about. All right, number 6. If your child was given a single wish for them optimism. I tend to be what I have called over the years a realist. Okay, I'm I thought of myself as an optimist, but a realist is basically a pessimist in disguise. Because if your mind tends towards the problems that are going to come up are going to have to be solved in your mind, going to have to be solved, or the worries that are going to take place because of engaging in some certain thing, what I found for myself is I tend towards pessimism. And I say, yeah, but and I say it with a smile on my face. I tend to be an optimistic person in engagement. I enjoy people. But then somebody asks me, oh, we should do this, we can do that. And then I go to the problems that exist in it, especially in business. It is a tendency of mine that I'm trying to not necessarily fix because it's not broken, but it's solved the thinking pattern that takes me to that first. Instead of saying, that's an idea. Let's massage that for a minute. Let's think about that. Let's talk about it again in a week or tomorrow or something. Number 6 says, if your child was given a single wish for them optimism. It's a funny sentence, but again, I stole this from someone else. So I want optimism for them. That means I need to model it. That's the main point of what I'm saying. I want my kids and my grandkids to be optimistic. And I found at times they weren't. And it was a reflection of how I process things out loud with the problems included, with some of the outcomes included, the positive outcomes and negatives included, but not, okay, well, the positive is the main thing I want to focus on. And I often don't. Number 7, 80% of wealth is accumulated and not earned. I'm finally, at this age in life, 61 years old, starting to learn that wealth that one day can be passed, both in mentally, in wisdom, the things I've written, the journaling I've done, the dollars that I may have accumulated, is not in the paycheck. It's not in the moment. So let's talk about wisdom for a moment. I've been reading scripture every day for 33 years. And again, I always caveat that by saying, I missed around 100 days in 33 years that I fell asleep early. I missed it for whatever reason, was traveling through the night, something. That wealth of wisdom was accumulated over long periods of time. It's less useful and less practical, less problem solving to say, I have this problem. Let me go to scripture and find the answer to this problem. What's better is, let me say, what I've done over the long haul. I've been in scripture, even a little bit, every day for 33 years. And so when I come up against a problem, I come up against a decision that needs to be made, because I've reiterated them so many times in my mind, I already know the principles that I need to mentally discuss or verbally discuss with somebody. I already know the principles of God's heart. So I am able to kind of get to the bottom line of what it's going to take for the solution, not necessarily a problem, to the issue. so what I'm saying is that accumulation over all those years has given me the understanding. It's given me a lot of anecdotal ideas. I can compare David of Scripture or Saul or all the people that I've read about in Scripture, and I can compare them to today's circumstance, and I almost always find a story in Scripture that relates to something that I'm talking about in the moment. That wealth of those stories and that wisdom, though I want it to grow still in the next 10 years, I hope to be much better at it, has accumulated rather than earned. Now, you do earn it by doing the thing. I've been in Scripture for 33 years, and so you do earn it slowly, but it's accumulated. It multiplies outside of that earning moment. So, same with money, investments, in properties, in wise investments, doing the wise thing accumulates wealth that I can pass to my grandkids someday. And I think we've been working on a couple of projects for 6 or 7 years, and we're coming up on looking at it going, okay, you know what? We're getting some traction here. I'm seeing that there's actually some dollars on the other end where we don't owe as much as we used to in this case, a piece of property, and we're cash flowing. And so anyway, that's what I'm saying is there's accumulation, and it takes a long time. You do need to spend the earned money to accumulate multiplied dollars later. And so I think it's a really good point. 80% of wealth, no matter the kind of wealth, is accumulated and not earned. The last one, number 8, stop fighting battles where winning doesn't get you anything. Sometimes it's better to wave the surrender flag and be done with the argument, be done with in the case of business, done with the customer sometimes, done with the lawsuit, done with the issue, pay the bill. You can fight over it. You have legitimate cause to be frustrated and to discount the bill, but they're persistent. Just pay the bill and be done with it. It may, in the case of business, a business, like let's call it approved partnership, someone we were using for some sub we were using for something, they did a bad job. It may affect the long-term relationship, but just get through it and take your life back, because winning the argument doesn't actually gain anything. It actually will take that time, which is a precious commodity. Now, that can be the same with a spouse. Sometimes you need to just hold your point and say, I don't need them to know my point, because there's no fruit in that anyway. Or I don't need to be the smartest and best in the room right now. I kind of wish I wasn't in this room, so I'm just going to be a wallflower and get through this thing and then process what I've heard later. Let me read that one again, because I think that is super important on our pathway to being great as a person. Stop fighting battles where winning doesn't get you anything. A little bit self-focused, but you can also lead your people into that same thing. Lead your family, lead your spouse, lead your marriage into that same thing by just sometimes giving up on it. Say, this is not worth extra time to worry about winning, to worry about being right, and just let it go for the greater good of your own soul, the greater good of the other person that's in the situation, and the greater good of it if you're part of an organization, that maybe it's a family. Maybe you want to be right about something right in front of your family, and you're right, and you want to push in with your spouse, but your kids are in the car or in the room. Let it go. Just let it go. Same at work. Just let it go. Maybe have a private conversation later with that person or someone else to kind of process what happened, but just let it go. Winning doesn't matter as much as you think it does. So stop fighting battles where winning doesn't get you anything, or anybody else, to be honest. All right. Here's the closeout for the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast. So I want you to be great. We all come from a place that is less great. That is me too. I just started thinking about, what do I want to be in 10 years spiritually? I have some goals for my kind of my work, and what do I want to do that's outside of work, not hobbies, but more, um, what do I want to own? What other things do I want to accomplish? I have some of those, but I've just started thinking about what spiritually, at what point would I like to be? And then how do I set practical guidelines, practical steps in my path, and then work these steps out to be great. So join me on that. Look out 10 years. What do you want to be as a person, spiritually, emotionally? What do you want to be? And those are less tangible. And yet I think we can put things in the right inputs in our mind and our heart to get there. If we remember, this is where I'm headed, this is what I want to be. And then I need to put the right inputs, get the right people around me, read the scriptures in those ways, the right way, and accomplish then greatness in the areas that I really think I should, the ones that I really want to. All right. I'll finish this out by a phrase that I really like, Zig Ziglar. And this speaks to you. So take it in as I read it. You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness. God gave you all those things. Now, call to action. Go be great. It's your choice.